Well, here we go. Hello and thanks for joining me. Today I'm on to the grade 5 pieces, the ABRSM grade 5 pieces. A1 to start with, the Tarantelle, a fun, lively piece to play. If you like fast music, then this could be a good one to choose. However, when we look at the tempo marker at the beginning, we've got Allegro Vivo written in, which of course is quick and lively. The dotted crotchet equals 160. Gives us a very fast, which is actually very awkward to play. And, you know, this is grade 5 after all, not grade 8. So, you know, you aren't necessarily expected to play it that quickly. And in fact, in the book, it goes on to say in the footnotes that students may prefer a slower tempo. For example, 132, which even that isn't ridiculously slow by any means. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to play you this piece so you can listen to it. I'm going to play it halfway between the original tempo of 160, which is insanely fast, and the mark of 132, which is written in the book as an alternative slower tempo. So you've got a very wide scope there between 132 and 160 to work out what tempo you want to play it at. Obviously, what I'm saying will only really make sense if you've got a metronome and you can set it to these beats and you can hear for yourself then the speeds. So when we hear that 160, that's moving along quick. If I put it to 146, which is exactly halfway between 132 and 160, it's just a little bit more manageable. It's still nice and lively, but it's not quite as intense. So here we go. I'm going to play it. You will notice I've got a photocopied page here. This is fine because it's a 3-page piece, and it's one of these pieces that's actually, it's very awkward to do a page turn at the beginning here. It's pretty much impossible. And usually in these situations, if you can't find a moment where one hand can jump up and turn the page, unless you're employing someone to turn your pages for you, you're left with no alternative but to have page 1 really printed out there, which for the purposes of the exam is fine. You could of course memorize it as well. That's another thing you could do if you felt brave enough and want to try it. So anyway, here we go. 146. Okay. So there we have it. That's this piece played. Now we'll go back to the start and discuss. So looking at the beginning, we've got that opening idea. If we look at the right hand first, in groups of 3, that's why they're slurred. And we've got that crescendo. So, and then that very strong SF, that sudden accent there. That's the kind of effect of it. So you've got to be careful not to start it really loud, because you've still got to build a little bit up to get to bar 2 where that really loud note is. So that's the effect of it. If I just check that tempo. So you're going to obviously need to practice this very slowly to get that sound there. And you might be saying to yourself, actually, as I'm playing this, why am I playing it so softly at the start? We've got to be careful actually to figure this out, because you need a reasonable volume. So you've got to dig very deep to get that extra power out of the piano. And the same in the left, of course. That's the kind of sound you want to be aiming for. So there we have it, and then we got the stabs. None of those are particularly long. We do have a pause then at the end of that section before we go into the next bit. So we can just kind of wait a few extra moments. Arguably, when I played it earlier, I could have had a longer pause there actually, because it's very easy just to go straight into the next section. So we've got that there, and then of course we've got a fairly legato line, but it is piano, so be careful not to play it loud because it is soft here. But of course the next part does have a crescendo marked in, which is going to be over a few bars. By the time we get to bar 15, it's quite broad. So we're starting really a few bars before, still fairly soft. And you can hear that bar building up in bar 14. And that's the sound we're going for. So if I play it from bar 9, a little bit slower. And that's a very good bar to really focus on, bar 14. Because that's the nice crescendo effect really there. And of course then, after that, we do not need to repeat. We will move straight on to the next section in these ABRSM exams. Unless it tells you to repeat a section in the footnotes, you will automatically just go on straight to the next bit. Do keep in mind that by the time you've got to bar 16, you could just keep working on that section for a while. Maybe try memorizing some of it as well, because then you can have the advantage of looking at your hands, which is a much more useful way of practicing really, if you can not be glued to the sheet music all the time. That goes for most things when you're playing. So now we'll pick up from the next section. So we're starting off with this leggero, a word that I can never normally pronounce properly. Just means lightly, and of course it's quite delicate here. And again, these are in groups, these notes in the right hand. You want that kind of skippy sort of feel to it. Da-dum, ba-dum, 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 in groups, with that kind of small gap between each of those pairs. That's the sound you want. And then this last bit, of course, runs in as one idea. Left-hand chords are written as dotted crotchets all the way through this piece, actually, aren't they? But you can treat them as a slightly bouncier effect, because you have to lift your hand off every time anyway to play them again. So the important thing is to bring out that melody, but not get too loud. So that's what we have there. Then we have this kind of galloping left hand in bar 21 with a crescendo as well. So by the time we get to the bar 24, we're loud again. So you might want to practice that galloping section. You've also got to develop an evenness of touch here, because, you know, if it's any way out, it's not going to sound nice. You know, if it's kind of, you know, you don't, that disjointed sound, it's got to be nice and smooth and clean. That's why you mustn't rush these things when you practice. Even if you've been playing for years, you might still have an area that's weak in your playing. It might be scale playing, it might be arpeggio work. In this case, we've got broken chords. Just make sure that's nice and even there. So I'm going to pick it up from there, the crescendo bar, bar 21. And of course, the other danger, of course, is that left hand overshadowing the right hand. So make sure you start this left hand not too loud, and then it's going to sound good. And then, of course, at bar 24, we have this this reappearance of the original idea. I had to think what I was going to say then. And again, that galloping left hand going on there, you know, Don't forget the treble clef is frequently appearing in the left-hand part, which of course it does at the start of that section at the end of page 1. So now we get to a point where we can say, right, we've done all of this now, we're about halfway through the piece, and there's a key change coming up. As we go into bar 33, the key has changed from what was D minor, it wasn't F major, just because it's got the F major key signature. That key signature, B flat, as you people probably know, if you're grade 5 piano players, is also the key signature for D minor, the B flat sign. However, we are now going into D major. We have the two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So this next section is very contrasting. It's got the major sound to it. So we have these staccato wedges, these like staccatissimo effect, which is very staccato. It has to be very crisp, very clean. Pretend that the keys are very hot and you almost don't want to touch them. You can kind of do like a flick motion when you play staccato if you want it a fast staccato, like you're flicking. But you can also do a sort of tapping motion, or you can combine the two like a tap and a flick. Imagine there's dust on the key and you're flicking the dust off and you're sort of tapping it as you do it. That gives you a very quick attack. With the thumb it's harder to flick, but you can hear it's quite crispy. Then we have that SF, that sudden sort of accented sound, but it's all played quite staccato, isn't it, the first bit? Here's the crescendo coming, and then we have this even stronger right hand, but be careful because the right hand is legato there, but the left hand is staccato. So as you strike that bar, you want the left hand chord to come off, but the right hand F sharp to be held. That's something that might be a bit strange to do, but you've got to try and work on that because that will help bring out the F sharp. It exposes it slightly more. And that's what we have there. And don't forget it's da-dum, that sort of dropping of volume in that bar from really strong to just dropping off. So that might be a bar just to isolate and practice on its own. And then we are carrying on, still very staccato and soft again. So we've got to be careful not to be loud. And once again, in bar 40, we have that contrasting articulation. The right hand is legato, and that left hand is still staccato. So watch what's happening here. And also that dotted line suggests that the B is played at the same time as the left hand D major chord. So they're together. You might want to practice that. I think when I played it earlier, I might have anticipated the acciaccatura, the grace note, too early. So anyway, we've got to play it together. That's the effect of that. I'll stop waffling and I'll carry on. So now we're doing bar 41. This is a bit tricky. This is why you have to practice this slowly. The change of finger, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, all the time. Then we have that final one. That's what's going on there. Left hand, similar, so the staccato effect is still being felt in the left hand. And there's that crescendo as well. So do remember, at bar 41, you're still soft, and then you're building up in the following bars. I find myself playing, on that last bar, bar 44, I'm playing 2 and 4 fingering in the right hand. It just feels very natural to me to do that. But the 3 to 5 is also fine. So whatever you prefer. And again, the left hand is staccato and the right hand isn't. If you isolate that bar, that's another one to think about. Then we finish off with this last few bars, which of course is leggero, still very soft. We're going to totally ignore the first time bar. So you're playing bar 45, 46, 47, and then not the following bar, which is bar 48, although the second time bar also is considered to be bar 48, strangely. because it's leading you back to the final section, which is going back to D minor and the original theme. So now we're going to go from bar 49. This is the same tune, of course, as the beginning, and it's strong. Watch out for that treble clef in the left hand as we go into bar 53. More galloping, still loud. And then we once again ignore that first time bar. We do not need to repeat anything. We're going straight to the second time bar into the final section. I'm just playing it slow for purposes of demonstration. And then the same phrase again at bar 58. We want that rise and fall effect. So going just from the second time bar, bar 56. Poco Rit at bar 62. So we're slowing down a little bit, and we've also got that 8 VA line, which means playing the right hand part an octave higher than written. So some of you might have already seen that sign before, the dotted 8 VA line. So just to recap, if I'm going from say bar 60, where that first begins, and then it's just picking up from where my hand already is now at bar 62. It's an octave higher than written. Sorry, I should have got quieter there. And sort of slowing down a bit as well. And then of course we're immediately back to the... And we're not lingering at all on that last chord. We're coming off, you know, within 6 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, off. That's how it's ending. So there you go. There's a few things to think about here, and I hope what I've talked about has been helpful to you. So give it a go. Good luck, and I might see you on the next few videos that I'll be making. So perhaps we can meet up again and go through some other things. Okay, take care for now. Thanks for watching.